Welcome to this episode of The Good, The Bad and The Odd with your host, Mark. This is an odd one out episode. Today I'd like to talk about Pet Sematary and Pet Sematary 2. Pet Sematary, released in 1989, starring, I'm not sure it's worth even talking about some of the stars. It starred Fred Gwynne, who's most famous for being Herman Munster in The Munsters, but he's been great in a lot of things. He was in The Cotton Club with playing against Bob Hoskin and the comedy pair. It was pretty funny. They were gangsters, but they were like comedy characters. And also the judge in My Cousin Vinny was really good in that. Anyway, he's by far the best actor in this. There's a couple of people play a couple who have some small children who live across the road from him, both of which really aren't very good in their roles. The main character in this is a guy called Lewis Creed, who's a doctor at the university nearby, and they've just moved there. But the actor playing him is very, very non-expressive. He talks in a kind of monotone, really a poor casting choice. And the wife is Denise Crosby, who's most famous for playing Latasha Yar in Star Trek The Next Generation, and she's the mother of these small children. She's not an actress that can do mother, really. She's a bit stark and upright and statuesque. She worked well in Star Trek, but as a mother, it doesn't work. There's no chemistry between her and the children, and her and her so-called husband, and anyone really. It's an odd thing. However, Fred Gwynne's really good. Actually, the kids are pretty good in this. The little girl of the family is pretty good, and there's an even younger kiddie, 2 or 3 year old boy who's. They used to good effect. He's very cute and sweet, but they used him to really good effect with decent editing and stuff. But it looks like they made him do some things they really shouldn't have towards the end. It was a bit uncomfortable. And there was another actor in it who's basically plays a dead guy. The relationship's a bit like the friend in American Werewolf in London. He's dead, but he sort of tries to give them messages and talk to them. Playing a character called Victor Pascal. He's not bad, but he's a guy in like zombie-like makeup, just trying to do really basic. But he's okay. The story is, it's a Stephen King book. I read it, bizarre, must have been about 16, 17 years ago, and it really had a strong effect on me. It was around the time of birth of my first child, and this story is about the death of a child and the impact of that, and I found it very, very affecting in a way. It was really good because it tapped straight. I could tap straight into it, and in a way it's bad because it was kind of intense and hard to read, but I just had to keep reading it. Good book. I think it's a bit underrated in terms of Stephen King's canon. I really like it, actually. I think it's a really nice book. Anyway, the film, different kettle of fish, same basic story, but this is a fairly crudely made horror film. As I say, Fred Gwynne's really good. They do lift a lot of dialogue from the book, which helps. The dialogue in the book is actually pretty good, and that helps a lot. But as I say, the main leads in it are pretty poor. And it meandered along. It was okay. Fred Gwynne was okay. There was a cat in it who was killed and reanimated. When it was the cat, it was alright, but when it was the model, it wasn't very good. But essentially, the story really, really starts working toward the end, the last act. It's very creepy. There's some creepy parts in it. There's the wife who's talking about her sister who's dying of spinal meningitis or something like that. Some sort of wasting, affecting disease, and she was left to look after her one day when she was only 8 years old, and her sister died while her parents were out, and the doctor really hates them for that. That's another issue, and she feeds back into the story too. There's, I'd say there's kind of 3 good things about the film, right? Forget about the leads. Fred Gwynne is really good, really good. It really works. When he delivers that dialogue, it really works. When the kid comes back, he's quite disconcerting, both in the way they cut cut it really well, so it looks like he's doing all these really weird and horrible things. But there are definitely clear shots where you see this little kid who's about 2 holding a scalpel, which is a really weird thing to do. I guess it must have been a prop, but it was really. And there's other bits where he kind of falls back against the wall and obviously hits his head, which is kind of, ooh, that looked a bit much, and it gets an injection. Things like that look a bit strong, really. But having said that, it works really well in terms of a horror film. And there's also bits with this weird sister of the wife. And I think the final act was really good, actually. It was kind of gruesome and I wouldn't say scary, but definitely made the hairs on the back of your hand stand up because it was just so odd. The kid was doing odd things. It worked well. I kind of liked it. I thought this was a good film. 60 out of 100 I give this film. Now, the sequel, which was made 3 years later, is a different kettle of fish entirely. However, it was made by the same director. Mary Lambert directed the first one. Let me just check the writers on that, actually. Hold on. They're not to hand. I'm not sure if it's the same writer, but it's certainly the same director. Tonally, it's a completely different kind of film. And it works in its own respect as well. And it works really because they go completely nuts. It's a bonkers film, this is. It stars the most famous person from it is probably Ed Furlong, who was John Connor in T2, and it's Clancy Brown, who's most famous for probably the Kurgan in Highlander, or the main prison guard in Shawshank Redemption. Great actor, it has to be said. And this is a kind of a silly, fun horror film. They try and play it serious, but it doesn't work. But when Clancy Brown comes back, you're talking about a Kurgan he's doing the Kurgan, but a reanimated corpse version of the Kurgan, and he's doing really weird things. Like he sits there and he's got a hutch full of white rabbits, and he systematically breaks their necks, skins them, and then prepares the meat for cooking and eating, and he's eating away, and he's just constantly laughing, and he's like really weird, a bit rapey. A lot of people die in this film too, and it's a really weird film. It's a really, really odd film, but it's very entertaining, especially the second half when Clancy Brown is effectively a reanimated corpse, but no one realises it. It's very funny, and there's all sorts of weird. The story's really wacky. It's all over the place. Doesn't make much sense. Well, it makes sense, but it's just like they haven't really gone for narrative drive or linearity. They just thrown a load of things in a blender and seen what comes out. And it's fine, it's fine. I enjoyed this a lot, but it isn't rated much on IMDb. It's got 4.4 out of 10, so a lot of people didn't like this. And I'm guessing if you look at the user ratings, it's probably a lot of people don't like it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was rather fun. In fact, I'd give it 67 out of 100, so only a little less than the first one. It was really fun. It was just fun. It was nutty. It was fun. Lots of really gruesome effects in it. In fact, there was quite a few gruesome ones in the first one too. But it was like Clancy Brown's killing people and then going off to bury them in the old Indian burial ground, so they're reanimated again and stuff like that. And one of the boys wants his mum back, and like Clancy Brown actually goes and gets the body for it. But he used to go out with, when he was alive and a lot younger, he used to actually go out with this guy's mother before she had the son and before she got married to this other guy. Anthony Andrews is another actor that you'd know. He's known for Revenge of the Nerds, and he was one of the characters in Top Gun, I think, and he was most famous from TV on an old TV show called ER. And he was alright in this. He was okay, but Clancy Brown really steals the show, actually. He's rather fun. As interesting, I have to admire the director for going tonally something quite different. And they're obviously reusing some of the sets of the first one too, because it's the same houses. And it's the same story, set in the same village. What happened in the first one is like local urban legend. In fact, they make a reference to the daughter coming back and going crazy, and I thought she'd pop up at some time, but she didn't. I thought that was like a plant for a later plot point where she would somehow be part of the mayhem, but it turns out she wasn't, which is a shame. I enjoyed it. I like both of these films. They're silly, wacky, but they're fun. Okay then, bye.